want to
Okay, yeah.
make it bigger? Or
Of course. Good
called?
idea.
The grid one, or just us? You can see you. You can see us. You can see us clearly.
I'm not sure how to like.
Press the view button. No, on the top right. Yeah, just do gallery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to see yourself.
Well, I do, but it's okay.
It's kind of small. All right, this will do. All right. Hi everyone. So this is our third part of the Penn Appétit Fall Food Summit series for this week. I have Ingrid Chiao here, who is working or was working at Situ. She started out as a service manager / chef in partie.
Oh, that was actually kitchen server / chef de partie.
Chef de partie.
Basically a line cook. Yeah.
But then later on, she worked to become a sous chef / service manager in the restaurant. Currently, she's back in Taiwan due to COVID, and we're really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Today we'll be making cheddar scallion scones, and then afterwards we'll have a brief Q&A. Also, feel free to take notes or whatever you want on the biscuit making process, and we will have a full recipe posted on Penn Appétit's website after this event. So I guess we can start with brief introductions. If you can sort of give a background about yourself. I mean, introduce you, but
Right.
yeah, for the audience.
Hi everyone. My name is Ingrid. I actually graduated from Cornell with an engineering degree many years ago, and I worked as an engineer for about 2 years. And I had the privilege to go to culinary school because I moved back to the U.S. with my husband. I tried to look for a job, but it was really difficult without a citizen status. So I decided to go to culinary school so I could learn something, and see if I'm interested in the industry. Because I'm not sure, just like every one of you, I was kind of interested in culinary, as in college and after college, yeah. And that's what I decided to do, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And ever since that, I started working at a restaurant, and then I just went down the rabbit hole. I never came back. Yeah.
After bioengineering or
mechanical.
Right.
But I tell everyone that everyone who asks is almost the same. It was the fundamental is the same. The reason why I went into engineering is because I wanted to use my hand a lot and make things with my hands. But I didn't realize what medium it was. So, and you didn't know you can making food could be a job, right? Yeah, right. But after I discovered food, I realized that this medium is my favorite because it's it's edible and you get pretty much instant gratification. Yeah. Anyway, so I actually went to International Culinary Center in Campbell, California. Right now it is closed, and they have another one in New York. I'm not sure how that one is doing. I've heard if you think about it this year as well. That was just a 6-month program where you were in school for 4 months and then you intern at a restaurant. And that's how I felt was the best way for me to get into the industry. And there are other ways to get into the industry as well. If you have a connection or a club like this, get to meet many people and chefs. So then I worked at Institute, which is a 1 Michelin star restaurant in San Francisco, for 3 years. And unfortunately, we're closed temporarily since mid-March. And the company has done some other things like takeout and other strategies, but I personally decided to come home for a better time during this period. We'll start making biscuits, and then we can have some more Q&A session. And I think today the topics today will be more of women in the food industry, and also if you have any other questions, because I work both back of the house and front of the house, we can talk about that as well. So actually, what we're making today is biscuit, and it's not a scone. And the difference between yeah, you said it. And the difference between two mostly is that the biscuit is flakier and it has a higher butter content. So that it makes it's flakier and like more layers, and the scones tend to be like crumblier. They sometimes add eggs or they add eggs into the scones as well. But biscuit is mostly flour and a lot of butter.
That's what we call like British, like the British scones you get at high tea. That's a scone, or is that a biscuit?
That's a scone.
That's a scone.
Yeah, I think they're both from England.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they have two. They have a scone or biscuit.
Biscuits are fatter.
Fat, yeah, and fattier, yeah. And this recipe is from one of my favorite chefs in Los Angeles. Her name is Maylin, and she owns the restaurant Nightshade. It's just a really easy, great recipe that you could do within, I would say 20 minutes. I did prep some in advance so we have more time to go over the details. And then you can have it in your freezer and you can bake it anytime. It's really great. Okay, so the ingredients, all the dries, I have it weighed out already. So I don't know if you're gonna post it, but I can just go over it. So AP flour right here. And then we're just gonna, I feel like you can see it better right here. So the dries, we have 5 dry ingredients. This AP flour is 300 grams. I tend to go by grams with all of my cooking. It is what you'll do most often if you decide to go into the restaurant world. Yeah, because it's the most accurate. I'm sure you guys all know, metric system is better. Yeah. So okay, we have 300 grams of AP flour. We have the leaveners, which are the baking powder and baking soda, and the baking powder is 15 grams and the baking soda is 10. Salt and sugar. Sugar is 10 and then salt is 5 grams. So we combine all the dries together. Okay. And for the wet ingredients, it is really simple. The main fat is butter. It is grated butter that I've grated with one. Okay, it's my one of the big graters, a cheese grater. Okay. But it's easier if you have the one that you could stand. Yeah, stand. Yeah, because you're holding a butter stick, and usually I will freeze the butter the night before, and then I can grate frozen butter.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I also grate because you want to keep all your ingredients really cold, so I also grate frozen cheddar cheese by hand as well. But you can always buy, I'm sure,
like
packaged shredded, cheddar cheese. Okay. And then we have scallions / today I actually have green garlic because I found it in the supermarket and they're a little more pungent. Yeah, but green garlic in the U.S. I believe is only really in like the spring season.
I've actually never. I don't think I've been. Yeah.
It's definitely a West Coast thing. The West Coast does get a lot more ingredients in the farmers market. Yeah, green garlic is in the spring. So we're gonna add all the ingredients into your dry mix that you kind of like already.
I know. So like for. Okay, I know this for scones. I don't know this for biscuits because I know for some scones sometimes people like use their hands to like rub the butter into the flour.
Yeah.
Could you do that for biscuits?
But so I already grated the butter, so it's pretty like.
If it was cubed.
If it was cubed, I mean, yes, you can cut it into small pieces and then rub it. But the problem is not the problem is that your hand is really warm and it would make it like. Not faster, but you want to keep it as cold as possible so that like there's more steam trapped in this dough. Right. I mean, and by pre-grating it, like you just make it so that it's already it can be evenly distributed throughout the dough, and you can work really fast. You don't have to work the dough extra. Yeah, so you don't have to. Introduce any more heat, like by using the food processor or by your hand. Yeah, so that's the.
Yeah, I forget sometimes. Like when you use a food processor, the food heats up
Right. Yeah, for sure. So if you make this with a food processor, you don't sorry, you don't have a grater. You would just pulse it with the food processor, just like every other kind of like scone or biscuit recipe. That you try not to just let the food processor go by itself. Yeah, you want to just definitely pulse things. Yeah, I feel like everything else anything that you're cooking, you want to pulse before you actually just let it go. So I just mixed the scallions, cheddar, and the grated butter in here, just for a short period of time, and then I'm just gonna add the buttermilk.
Where'd you find buttermilk?
So Taiwan is really hard to get buttermilk. It's like almost impossible, and the buttermilk that you get is like not that great either. I got it online. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's less creamy and it's less acidic. But I find the end product being okay. Like, yeah. But if you're in the US, like,
not a problem. I've seen people like do for substituting for buttermilk, like, oh yeah, add vinegar to like milk and let it sit, and like that works as a substitute.
Yeah, like I have done it before and it works.
It works.
Yeah. That's totally fine. So I just lightly mix it in dough, and I'm going to pour it onto a surface, and I'm going to build it on a flat surface. If most of you cook at home, you have a pastry scraper. It's one of the essentials. You'll need many of them if you actually start to work in the food industry, because you lose them all the time. Just like I don't know what you lose in college anymore.
I was gonna say like pens or pencils, but I don't know if anyone actually uses them.
I see. Not anymore.
Sometimes.
So right now I'm just gonna build this biscuit. It's still pretty cold, which is good. It's kind of like you're playing, I don't know, Play-Doh. And you can use this guy to help you out. Yeah, it's very cool. It's not sticky, is it? It should be fine.
You want to like pack it together.
Yeah, you want to pack it together. And then one of the techniques that I do to try to create more layers is that I would cut it in half and then I would stack it on top of each other. I do that like 2 or 3 times. I don't know, yeah, so I cut the dough in half. Yeah. It's still pretty flaky right now. These.
Wait, Josephine, if you could tilt the screen like maybe a little bit down. So we can see it, but it's like on the edge of the screen. Just like maybe tilting the computer. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
You can use a rolling pin as well to help you out. So I wanted to stack it again. A rolling pin will make it just like faster and less heat introduced by your hand. Yeah.
Oh, so it's actually it is coming together.
Well, there's definitely like water releasing from the butter, or the oil releasing from the butter that helps it stick together.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of like this technique, so you don't have to do. So I just cut it in half and I just stack it on top of each other, and then I kind of shape it again. Yeah.
It's too hot.
Today is really hot. Yeah,
it's really hot. just for reference, today is like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I'd say
No,
more.
way hotter.
It's like 75 right now in Taiwan.
I think it's hot. Yeah, I mean, and then you could roll it out. I'm gonna add a little. Just give me 1 sec. Sorry. It's sticking on the rolling pin a little bit, so we're just gonna add hours of it. I'm just flipping it over so that the bottom, I'm just gonna shape the bottom as well. Just so that it looks all nice and square, so it's easier for you to cut. Yeah. That's it.
So tall. This is like
You can also do it a little bit flatter. It depends on how fat you want your biscuit. Yeah.
But usually, like, it's made taller.
No, it's that one. The one I just made is about this height.
Okay.
After you shape it, you're gonna put it in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and then you're gonna portion it to the size that you want to bake.
Do you cut it with the pastry?
No, I cut it with a knife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that it's a little sharper. You can also, I tend to like to just cut it into like squares or rectangles instead of circles, so that you don't have the
You don't
edges.
waste it.
Yeah, I mean, the edges you can always put it back together, and then you go and then do it again. But there's gonna be forever like trims. But if it's a rectangle, if you don't mind the rectangular shape, it should be.
So you're gonna put it in the freezer?
Yeah, we're gonna put it in the freezer. We just have a parchment paper, and then we're gonna put it in the freezer too.
It's definitely better than using plastic wrap.
Oh, I'm just gonna freeze it for about 30 minutes, so you don't need to wrap it. But my freezer is a little bit messy, so.
It's fine.
So after you freeze it for 30 minutes, you portion it, and then you could bake it pretty much straight. But just remember, you don't really want to leave like a whole biscuit in the freezer, because one is solidly frozen, it's really difficult to cut.
So only 30 minutes, like don't forget about it.
I mean, one time I just like, oh, it's probably okay, and then I want to portion it the next day, but it was very difficult, and you had to let it come to a little bit soft, but not too soft to portion it. But you might as well do it right after. Tried it. So many things in the culinary world, you have to just kind of fail and then realize that, okay, you shouldn't do that again. But it's still, you can still, like, it's not like it's not doable, but it's just more annoying. And, you end up having to waste more time.
Yeah.
That it can do it. So we'll just do a quick demo of baking, and then we can go into it. It's very easy. Just wonder. So these are kind of dough that I made previously. They'll look like that. You'll see different layers of butter, scallions, or green garlic. This one is scallions. And then I cut them into cubes like that. That you'll have some like not as pretty edges that you could just end up, taste testing yourself, not serve it too. So we can bake some. I don't have to bake all of them. So I kind of keep them in a little container after it's portioned, and then just leave them in the freezer, and then just bake how many I like to eat.
You're baking this at
200 Celsius, for about 15 minutes. I'm gonna brush a little melted butter on top. You can also do any like if you have chicken fat at home or other fat, you can always do that.
200 Celsius. That's like
200 Celsius.
380. I don't know.
It's like close to.
It's okay, guys. In the recipe, I'm going to be doing like a Fahrenheit conversion for y'all.
So I'm gonna spread a little. Just it's not necessary. Just a little more shine and like a little more. It's already pretty buttery. But by brushing just a little butter on top, I can also like add stick a little more like Malden salt, or if you wanted to add sesame on top, like you could do that. But anything that I bake, including cookies, I always like to do like Malden salt on top.
Okay, this might be like a really basic question, but why is there such a big hype about Malden salt? Like I see it all the time. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's so good!" And I'm like, it's literally salt. It's in the shape of a flake. Like, why is it?
Tastes better. Well, I mean, it's texture. The texture is really good, and it adds like a when you it's mostly for finishing. So if you add it like, for example, on top of your steak, let's set a timer. So we're gonna set 7 minutes and then rotate in 7 minutes or 7 to 8 minutes. It's like about 15 minutes depending on your oven. But like it adds a texture and like the salinity, but it's not like as like just salty as kosher salt or like table salt.
There's more flavor.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's less like concentrated saltiness. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Good. So that's,
Xander, do you have? I'm sorry.
No.
Xander, do you have more to add about flaky salt? He's also really good at bread making.
I think I agree. It's mainly about texture. Like getting like a little crunchy bite of sodium is a fun little treat to find.
And it's just like it's less salty, like than
Actual salt.
Than like table salt. Yeah, I feel like, and so you don't feel like you're just eating salt. So wash my hand.
Okay. And then I guess we can start with the Q&A.
So do you have any questions with that recipe? Like, I mean, it is very simple.
I
We normally,
I can ask them like right now.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for just like the recipe right now?
Normally, I would, if I'm making this like from start to finish in one session, I would grate the butter first. So, I have it like previously frozen in the freezer, and I would grate the butter first, grate the cheese first, and then just put them back in the freezer. Because once it's grated, it's very soft already. So, and then I would weigh out all my other ingredients, cut the scallions, and then put them all together. So my first step is always grating the butter, grating the cheese, and keeping all your ingredients kind of cold is the key. Because you never know how much time you're going to spend on the dough itself. By keeping your ingredients as cold as possible, it just gives you a little leeway. And it keeps this traps the stable more water, and then
Surprises.
so like it's flakier and
Sounds good. All right, so I'll start with a few questions, and then afterwards, okay. So there are a few questions.
Yeah.
I just said 400 Fahrenheit. Okay, what are some tasty substitutions for either the scallions or cheddar in this recipe?
You can use any cheese, I'm assuming.
Any cheese.
Yeah, like you can do mozzarella, you can do Gruyere. Like I don't think it would. Yeah, Oh, scallions.
I think
Green garlic.
we use green garlic.
You can add bacon bits to it too.
That sounds so good.
Right. And you don't. I mean, you don't even have to. You don't even have to like make it exactly like the same amount of grams as scallion. You can just throw in. Yeah. You can also like. I mean, instead of scallions, like sautéed onions or caramelized onions that are like finely diced. Yeah. Or it doesn't have to be super fine. Like my scallions aren't like super fine. Yeah, you could something like along that line.
That sounds really good.
Like caramelized onions, I think that'd be pretty good.
Wow. Like let's try that next time.
I wanted to like add like bacon, something substitute, but that's Taiwanese version. Like I think you can add like Chinese sausages in there. That makes it more Chinese.
Okay.
Because bacon, people don't really eat bacon here, and like I wasn't gonna go buy bacon. Yeah.
Okay.
But cheese are harder to buy in Taiwan too.
That's true.
Like Gruyere cheese or fancier cheese.
It's more expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can start with our first question for I think like Q&A. So I think Ingrid, you mentioned previously in your email about like wanting to talk about your experience in the food industry. Right. So just I think more general question to start us off. How would you, for those who are like who don't have background in the food industry, how would you say that being a woman has impacted your experience working in food?
Right. I think the biggest thing is that I had a different goal going into the industry. I also started a little late because I joined when I was like 25, 24, 25 years old.
Like after college.
Right, like 2 years after college, yeah. And my goal was always like, I was also married at the time. So my goal was I wanted to have a family and be able to work in the food industry. And I don't know how to achieve that, but that was my goal. Which is different than what most people have in mind when they go into the food industry. Like a lot of people, if they know you're a chef, they ask you this question like, oh, so what do you want to do? Like, do you want to open up your restaurant in the future and have your little shop? And I'm just like, I don't understand why I ask this question when like nobody asks like a machine learning engineer what his ultimate goal is. Like, but everybody wants to know what the chef's ultimate goal is. It's very interesting. So I have to kind of I have my answer, which is good. But if you want to go into the food industry, and your family and friends are going to ask you this question, but my goal is, I know it would be difficult because the hours are really long, like 12 to 13 hours, and having a family sounds
very difficult.
Impossible. Yeah, even having a relationship. If you didn't have a relationship before going to college, it's going to be very difficult. You're most likely going to meet people at the restaurant and end up having, kind of a relationship with people in the food industry, or else it's just like anything that sucks up your time. Like they're gonna wonder why you spend a lot more time cooking than with anything else. Anyway, so that was kind of going in like the industry. That was my ultimate goal. So with that in mind, it's not like anything really changes, but when I found a restaurant that I really, really like enjoyed and think I would learn a lot, I wanted to stay there a longer period of time, and kind of worked up to a place where I like maybe I didn't have to work 12 to 13 hours a day, and they would still think I am very valuable. You know what I'm saying? Like, because everybody is replaceable
in the food industry.
I think really anything. Yeah. And why would they keep you around if you can't work that many hours? You have to be valuable enough. Basically, you have to know the in and outs of that restaurant, or you have to be really just a really good chef. But for me, it's hard to become a really, really, really good chef within 5 years. So for me, it was like, okay, let me just stick with this restaurant and like know everything about this restaurant, and that like I can work any position that they ask me to.
Because you've been here long enough.
Because right, and I'm flexible enough. Right. So that was kind of, I think being a woman really changed kind of the trajectory of what I was going to work on. Right.
I think so. Jumping off your question about your comment about how people ask you if you're going into food, what is your ultimate goal, and then not asking that for someone who does machine learning. Sort of, I guess can you sort of expand on that? So do you think it's because what difference in expectation do you think is leading to this process between wanting to do food and everything else?
I think part of it is that people want to relate when you're having a conversation, especially with your elder family members. They just want to relate to you more. So they're just asking questions. They're not they're not thinking how much pressure you put on you. They're just asking questions in general. But some other jobs, I think it's harder to feel like you have, I guess, an ultimate goal, because you could just, work up and be a manager. I don't know. I feel like people are always like, oh, why don't you just open up a place? It's just, no. But anyway, that was one of the kind of the thing that was different from other people. And I would say another thing is that you have to realize you can't really be 100% independent. For example, I would feel a little bit, how do I say it? I can't, I'm pretty strong and I can lift a full bag, flour bag by myself, but there's no way I could lift a 50 liters. Well, nobody can lift it by themselves, stock pot. So you have to really accept your weakness, in terms of muscles or in terms of just long hours, and then you accept it and then ask for help. Sometimes that's very difficult. You have to realize that it's okay to ask for help, or you have to figure out how do you ask for help as least as possible. Be okay to ask for help, but also try to think about ways that you don't have to in certain situations. So you have to pick your battles. That thing, every time I move it, I'm gonna ask for help. That thing, I'm gonna try to figure out a way to move by myself. We were making bread at our restaurant, and it's really, really heavy dough. And I realized I actually can't lift the dough by itself. I can't do the fold because it's so heavy. So I need to figure out actually if I stand on somewhere higher and lift the dough with really wet hands, it works. You need to figure out the way it works, or else they'll never give you big responsibilities of just prepping by yourself.
It's kind of this conflict between sort of proving yourself, but also within your own limits.
Right. But don't overdo it because you're gonna fuck up a lot of parts.
Okay. Sorry, I think. Okay. So I think this is a good finishing question from Timothy. So Timothy asked, what chef do you look up to, sort of as a, I guess, goal, or whatever, what do you admire about them?
Right. That's a difficult question for me.
I think you mentioned I don't know, from the biscuit recipe, you mentioned mailing.
Right. But eventually, all any female chefs, it basically is you're amazing. But also actually, so I jumped from different for a period of time different people that I actually admire. Right now, it's a very, very niche person. But recently, I really admire this food stylist. Her name is Anna Lee. She just recently wrote a book that is pretty popular in Taiwan about being a food stylist in Los Angeles. She's just a couple years older, and food stylist is basically making food for a movie set. And it has to be pretty. It has to be really, really pretty, occasionally tasty, but fit the requirements of the actress's dietary needs and the director's craziness.
Whoa.
And that's really interesting. And she started at the culinary school, like
Uh-huh.
and then she worked at a restaurant, and then eventually tried to find gigs of food
Uh-huh.
stylists.
Yeah.
And I think like that's in general really, really like admiring.
Uh-huh.
Like no matter how she's pretty successful now, but no matter how successful you are, like on Wikipedia page or whatever, like it's just like working your ass off to get to a certain point is admiring. Yeah.
That's true. I guess that kind of goes for any industry, especially
Right. Yeah.
it's like but also like especially for foods, like it's really physically taxing too.
Right. Yeah.
12 to 13 hours is not
Or just like
yeah, that is
and-
exhausting.
and really, really seeking like opportunity, like yeah, I think it's really admiring. Yeah, because it must be very frustrating if if the gigs are not really available. That's my recent person that I admire. Her name is Anna Lee, and if you Google her, you have to Google like Anna Lee food stylist. It'll show up.
Yeah.
But like it's not like on the Wikipedia page where they talk about like Malin chef or like Claire Smith chef. That tells you the whole stories of like their experience. But like that's my very recent fangirl. I just went to her book sign.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess so. Since we ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have gone. We have gone like 10 minutes over time, but this is. I guess we can take a look at the biscuits now.
I feel like it's really hot.
Is it
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah. I know you guys can't smell this, but it smells amazing. Yeah.
So it was pretty. I mean, the only thing I did in advance was weigh out the ingredients and grated the butter, which would probably take a total of 10 to 15 minutes, let's say. So it is a very, very short recipe. And like if you have it in your freezer, then the baking is 15 minutes. Yeah. I think it's very convenient.
I think this is a good place for. Sorry. I think this is a good place. Just like wrap up and close for this event since it has gone 10 minutes over time.
Yeah.
But it was great. Really, it was great getting to like bake with Ingrid. So I think just if no one has any questions, then we can close here. So Ingrid, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and for everyone, make sure to go to our 4th event everyone's saying thank you. Make sure to check out our 4th event this week on Thursday night, Eastern time. And the recipe for this biscuit will be posted on Penn Appétit's website, so look out for that. And I think that's it, this event. So bye everyone, thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.